the NFL announced that Bad Bunny will headline the 2026 Super Bowl halftime show. The three-time Grammy Award-winning Puerto Rican-born artist initially shared that he did not include the U.S. in his concert tour, fearing that Immigration and Customs Enforcement (ICE) would raid concert venues. His tour has included a 2-month residency in Puerto Rico, followed by a world tour beginning in the Dominican Republic in November, and includes Latin America, Europe, and Asia. Kristi Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security, indicated that ICE would attend and have a presence at the Super Bowl in February, which will be in Santa Clara, California. Conservative podcasters have already expressed their displeasure that Bad Bunny will be doing the Super Bowl. During his opening on Saturday Night Live, the last episode, Bad Bunny spoke in Spanish, saying that his performance would be an important milestone and not easily erased, adding, and if you didn't understand what I just said, you have 4 months to learn. Um, I have a lot of thoughts, I think, just about like music and what advocacy is, also like the Super Bowl and like the space that that presents him or doesn't present him. I don't really know how to feel
Go
about it. Like, I
ahead so
don't.
I can go ahead and just not cut you off, but cut you off. Go ahead.
What do you want me to say?
No, what you just said, how the Super Bowl and advocacy and all of that. Go ahead and share your thoughts.
Um, well, more broadly, um, I think I've been kind of disappointed just in once again, like music, culture, everyone has kind of like not actually brought up the moment. Even the people that I think we associate with being considered in this kind of movement. Kendrick Lamar has said nothing about what is going on. Super Bowl performance or not, like if you're like really in tune to like detailed levels, he's not actually calling out what the hell is happening. He's just not. And I say that as a really big fan. It's, no artist is kind of like talking about what is currently happening today, whether that has to do with their reflecting our collective culture, which is kind of pulling out a little bit, maybe so. But no one, I think, historically, if you look at Black music specifically, it has always been associated with representing revolution, politics, freedom. Look at Marvin Gaye, Nina Simone, all throughout history, it has been tied to social situations that are currently happening. You even think of when Obama got elected, granted different context. What was the big song that came out? My President is Black and My Lambo was that was like a national song for Black people during that time. Even there's not even something to just be like, damn, what how did we get here? So I have my doubts about just how out front Bad Bunny will be, just because this is a moneymaker and this is has a huge economic boost for him. Um, I don't know. I think I'd like to think that he would take on the Trump administration, given that he just said that he's concerned about ICE. Um, the show will be produced by him, Rock Nation, and the NFL collectively. So I don't know what that looks like. If he flat out wants to, like, it's not. And to me, it's bigger than just him speaking Spanish. Even though I won't negate for someone who is a native Spanish speaker how powerful that would be to have someone speak Spanish at the Super Bowl to you. I can see that actually being really important. Um, I don't know what it'll. I don't think it'll mean anything in the grand scheme. He did endorse Kamala Harris. He had been very critical of ICE, but I don't know if that will be reflected. I have my doubts if that will be reflected in the Super Bowl.
I think it'll all be performative. I think it'll be a very performative show. I'm not even kidding because it's just kind of
No,
like
yeah, yeah.
they'll put a American flag or they'll assemble 1,000 people and say no ice here and just like
I don't even think they'll do that.
I mean yeah, or they'll do something and it's just
That's a
like
little
I
strong.
mean it'll be just as important as I feel. Well, no, it will definitely be important speaking Spanish,
Hmm.
incorporating that, and he'll probably have a monologue saying, you know, all unity and all these things. But like, yeah, like Beyonce coming out with the Black Power when she was the Black Panther costumes, and it's just like, oh wow, like okay, cool, fight the power. Then it's like, but your husband is
Oh,
doing things. So
ooh,
it's just like, no, but
ooh.
not even that. But I'm just saying, I think it'll be very performative, like, and not in a bad way. I think he will speak Spanish. I think that they'll incorporate it in a nice way. We really are one. We shouldn't even be acting like this. But like, as far as anything happening in real life after that,
And also to your point, that's also on them. Like even in like the one criticism I would give Beyonce, like yes, you did that, but then you didn't like follow it up with anything. You didn't say like, hey, this was that I did this because X, Y, Z, and I want to drive a conversation about this. Kendrick Lamar theoretically having like the American flag separate together. There's no follow up statement about like, here's why I did that. to your point, I think it's like having the art, having the symbolism, but then like actually like talking about why. And I think like just doing it on stage, it's going to leave by the fourth quarter of the game. No one's going to talk about it after. Henry, go ahead.
I'm just soaking in the thoughts. The word of today is translucent. Why? Because the conversation just keeps like it's just yeah, toppling. Nonetheless, though, I think well, one, y'all strict as heck. Yeah, like y'all strict over here. Y'all don't play. If somebody not coming full force, you not messing with it. And
Mean, this isn't to say I'm gonna boycott it or not watch it. Do I think it'll be a great show? Yes. Do I think it's gonna be? But like, it's just very ironic. And like to your point, the conversation is translucent because everything leads back to capitalism. That's all this is. But it's just interesting to what we've also talked about. You know, like like what do people really stand for? Because what's the point of doing the whole US thing? Had he not really did that, I probably wouldn't have much of an opinion on it, honestly. But it's like
Same,
you did
same.
that. You
Yeah.
made a stance, which I respect, I do, but then to
Mhm.
turn around and be on the biggest American. This isn't the World Cup. This isn't the Olympics. This is the biggest American stage. This is super Americana core.
so
And even then I'll say this because then like I would understand him saying like I understand like even like the logistical differences. Yes, people who he is probably concerned about are not attending the Super Bowl. So you can remove that out of it. But to Mackenzie's point, stand on the principle. Like just be like, if this is what you said, you would make more money touring in the United States than you would doing one show at the Super
So
Bowl.
that then lets you know it's not solely about money. I'm glad you said. I'm glad you said that. I'm glad.
Yes and
You know
no.
what it is?
Yes and no. Yes
They
and
probably
no.
use the example of Colin Kaepernick, honestly. Because I feel like he's the one of the few people, if not only people, well, not only people, but like really stood by it, standing on it. And
Okay, so y'all are just y'all talk for me, but y'all choose to just not see my points to sound. But point, Noah started with, you know, historically music, politics, so on and so forth have always been intertwined to the point to where in the 60s heavily and then during the civil rights era and all that time period we had artists like Sammy Cooke and Aretha Franklin and all of those persons sacrificing themselves. So we don't know how many concerts they lost, how many people boycotted them, so on and so forth for the greater good. In my personal opinion, this is just based on the history that I know, it affected them in more of real time
Mhm.
then than it does now. And especially if we, come up to the now millennial era, 2020s post, people have the ideal of wealth has done inflated so much. So the comfortability of especially black people who have gained more access and resources to get some type of wealth or the ideal of wealth, we've become comfortable. And which I challenged Noah earlier. We should be doing more and blah blah blah. Like there was no baton pass that kept going. It dropped, and when it dropped that's when all of this stuff came and embedded itself in real time because there was no active effort to continue to fight for our rights. So taking that ideology and applying it to Bad Bunny, or just music artists in this day and age, they are not willing to sacrifice their own individual livelihood for the greater good of the people. Now, what I have noticed, especially if we bring up a Beyonce or a Kendrick Lamar, they do a lot of symbolism and lyricism to where it messages toward, a certain energy, a certain audience, a certain stance, whatever. The if and but is kind of to where y'all was charging Kamala or Noah was charging Kamala. We want you full force. And I'm passionate. I'm passionate. I get loud. I get crunk. I get crazy. But it does become a point of just, I mean, calling a spade, and then like acknowledging what it is. And the what it is these people are not willing to risk their own individual livelihood for the greater good. Now, specifically talking about Bad Bunny, and why I'm glad Noah mentioned the money thing, he clearly is doing this for some greater message. And I'm using air quotes because I'm only speaking from my perspective. And with speaking from my perspective, I can only presume if he said I'm not touring in the United States because that puts my target audience at risk for just being in a just terrible situation, I'm gonna avoid that. And to your other point, I don't know. I'm just speaking on what I might know about ticket sales and American football. His target audience may not be the same target
It won't.
demographic
It
of
won't be.
the Super Bowl, which gives him the benefit of doubt to say, hey, I'm messaging to these direct people that probably likely put this man in place. So maybe to y'all point earlier of they never hear anything outside of their stratosphere. Nobody's ever messaging toward them, hey, think about this, or hey, consider this. This is ideal time to do that. This gives
And I
that him
That's
and maybe
fair.
and maybe that's
opportunity
also
to
where
do that.
and I think maybe
I'll
that's
let
where the
you have
difference
that
is.
point.
Yeah, that was a great point. The thing is, I don't even think that Bunny will do that. I think maybe that's like my disconnect is that I just don't think he's gonna do that.
Okay, what do you mean
And
you don't think he gonna do it when you just said on his Saturday Night Live skit he literally mocked it, like not mocked, but he
yeah, and I'm not gonna like
taunted it,
to
like
to
he
what we were talking about, and I think this has got to like what Mackenzie's saying. It'll be symbolic, but then it won't be like, is he willing to go in front of cameras and be like, the reason why I did this or said this is because of this.
So you remember that rant I just went on? It was the
No,
middle
right.
part.
No, no,
It
no,
was the
right.
middle part.
No, and I'm agreeing with you. And I think like for context, Henry and I talked about this earlier this week, and I think the difference that I had was that I also think it's like I think these artists are actually not understanding that actually like they have power, like a lot more economic driving power than they actually do. Beyonce has more power than any of her labels, any of like any corporate entity. Beyonce just has more power than them. Like she just does.
Okay,
If you're an
question.
artist
Okay.
at the
On
top, you
the Beyonce thing, she literally went on stage with Kamala, so like she definitely lets
no,
you
I'm no,
know.
I'm once again, I think it's also about like if we say like they're all about the dollar, it's like yes, but also like you are actually the driver of your dollar, not these like corporate entities. Like you actually have if you're at the top, if you're a Kendrick Lamar or that money, it's going to come. The culture is bought into you to a way that that is your economic driving power, not some endorsement from Verizon or Pepsi. That's not actually
That's
the
like
thing.
a
That's
yes
like
and no question, Noah, because let's as an artist, these vendors, sponsors, tourment, these people that give funding to allow me to put on these beautiful sets and stages and all of that. That's how the money gets involved. So yes, we're funding it to some degree because we're paying for the tickets and blah blah blah. But that upfront capital has to be fronted, and that's where
I'm not debating you on that. I'm just not. I'm
Beyonce
not.
definitely has the power to sit and argue for what she wants, right?
Mhm.
I do think like that's never been her. So
No, I'm not debating that.
can't
I'm not debating that.
hold right. But then when we see somebody like a Colin Kaepernick who, does he have that same level of celebrity and status? No. The however is when you're intentional, really intentional, and like where your boundaries are, what line, when you go into negotiate a contract, you know what you're not voting on. And with that being said, some people are okay with I should be able to include this in my language, free speech. And other people are, well, if you're not willing to get more black people on the team, get more black staff, increase the pay difference, so on and so forth, then I'm out of here and then y'all can figure that out.
Well, Beyonce, since I did critique her, I will critique her in the best way. Well, this isn't a critique, this is a love moment. She did that for the cover of Vogue when she hired the black photographer. That was like the first time I think a black photographer got to cover.
So in their own way and rights, they are making slight changes, but just not to the ample degree of what we would want or we would want to see.